Everyone treats the Ruger 10/22 like an indestructible backyard legend, and honestly, it earns that rep. It runs, it's cheap to feed, and it won't quit. What people rarely talk about are the factory shortcuts, magazine quirks, and tiny setup moves that actually decide whether your groups look meh or match grade. I'm Luke from Line 45, and today I'm pulling back the curtain on what Ruger doesn't want you to know, showing the small mods that actually matter, and proving this rifle is way more capable than they let on. Before we dive in, do me a solid, smash that subscribe, tap the bell, hit all the dang buttons down there. You don't gotta, but it keeps this train rolling and lets me crank out more of this wild gun talk for y'all. Alright, enough of that. Let's get back to it. Out-of-the-box accurate has a fine print. I keep hearing folks say the 10/22 is a tack driver right from the store, then I watch them chase flyers at 50 yards and blame the ammo. The truth is, the factory setup leans hard toward reliability, and a couple of design choices can nudge your groups wider than they need to be. First thing I check is the stock pressure on the barrel. The classic carbine uses a barrel band and pretty tight inletting, which can push on the barrel and mess with harmonics as the rifle heats up. The target models skip the band for a reason. Do the paper test. Slide a strip between the barrel and stock from the tip back toward the receiver. If it snags, you've got contact. Free-floating the barrel with an aftermarket stock like the Magpul X22 or Hogue overmolded, or lightly relieving high spots on a synthetic stock usually pays off fast. Second, the takedown screw torque matters more than people think. The action beds into the stock on one screw. If that torque is all over the place, your point of impact will wander. I set it with an inch-pound driver around the high teens, then recheck after a few range trips. Consistency is the win here. Same thing with the V-block that clamps the barrel into the receiver. Make sure both screws are even and snug, not gorilla tight. Last, lock in your reassembly routine. Seat the receiver the same way every time. Verify the barrel is centered in the channel, and then torque. Do those three basics and the May carbine turns into a legit rimfire trainer. The rotary mag is king, but it's not magic. I picked up more feeding lessons from magazines than from manuals. Ruger's rotary BX10 is brilliantly simple, and when maintained, it feeds like a dream. Most failures trace to three culprits: grit in the rotary chamber or feed lips, spring fatigue, or a damaged follower. I take suspect mags apart, clean the internals, inspect followers for chips or cracks, and test spring tension. Replace worn followers or weak springs. Small parts failing cause big feeding headaches. Do not over-lubricate the rotor because oil attracts grit, and Ruger replacement parts are easy to source if you need to swap pieces out. Ammo geometry will humble you. Cheap bulk 22 often has inconsistent case lengths and rim thickness that make the rotary index poorly on the last rounds, and hypervelocity or ultralight match loads can change timing enough to hiccup. I test 3 loads per mag and note which brands leave the least lint and index clean. Avoid mixing bullet profiles and brands in the same mag, because inconsistent stacking is a real problem. BX25 high-cap mags are fantastic for drills, but they change the feeding angle and increase spring strain. Some 10 divided by 22 seconds eat 25 seconds with no drama, others do not. Treat mags like precision parts, not junk. Rotate your magazines in service, clean them after heavy use, and bench test new or repaired mags both loaded and empty before you shoot. Store magazines unloaded to prolong spring life. That flyer you blame on the barrel is often a tired or dirty mag. Keep mags healthy, and the 10/22 behaves like the plinking legend it is, no cap. Bring a spare mag and swap mags every 100 rounds to catch issues. The trigger is fine, which is why it holds you back. I grew up thinking the 10/22's trigger was fine until I ran one against a threaded barrel and a match load. Factory triggers on modern 10 divided by 22 seconds tend to sit in the 4.5 to 6 pound range and feel a little gritty, which makes slow, precise shots harder than they should be. Ruger's BX trigger drops pull to roughly 2.5 to 3 pounds and give a much cleaner break, which is why a lot of shooters swap it in as a first upgrade. If you want to shave weight and get a crisp, repeatable reset, you have 3 practical paths. 1. Drop in Ruger's BX trigger for a cost-effective, safe improvement and consistent factory tolerances. 2. Spend more for a Timney, Kid, or Volquartsen single-stage kit if you want sub-2 pound pulls and adjustable shoe geometry. 3. Do a careful gunsmith-style polish and light stoning on contact surfaces if you know what you are doing, which can smooth take-up and remove gritty engagement without changing the geometry. Aftermarket triggers and race-style units routinely show faster split times and cleaner breaks in published tests and reviews. A trigger change alters how you shoot. Lighter, crisper pulls reward deliberate follow-through and expose bad habits. So you should train to the new feel with snap caps and a trigger gauge before trusting match ammo. Keep magazines unloaded when you work the internals, and always confirm safety functions after any swap. For a daily trainer or plinker, I run a BX at about 2.5 to 3 pounds, which gives better groups without turning the rifle into a hair trigger. Do the trigger first, and the rest of the 10/22 upgrades click into place. In short, a proper trigger makes you a better shooter, and your groups will prove it. Ammo choice is everything, and Ruger won't pick it for you. Here's where the 10/22 earns or loses respect. I don't buy one brick and call it good. I grab a sampler of standard velocity and subsonic loads, then shoot 5-shot groups at 50 yards from bags. Most 10 divided by 22 seconds settle down around standard velocity in the 1,050 to 1,090 feet per second range because the 116 twist stabilizes common 36 to 40 grain bullets cleanly. If you only feed bulk high-velocity stuff, expect flyers and vertical stringing when the lube and powder batches aren't consistent. That's not drama, that's rimfire reality. Chamber geometry matters. Plenty of aftermarket match barrels use a 22 bent-style chamber, tighter than SAMI sporting chambers, to boost accuracy in semi-autos. Hypervelocity rounds with long cases or long overall length, like some 32-grain screamers, can jam or show sticky extraction in those tighter throats. I check the barrel maker's notes before stuffing fast ammo, because some of them flatly say, skip the hypervel crowd. The upside of the tighter chamber is smaller groups, with quality standard velocity, so pick your lane. Load selection is a process, not a vibe. I start with 2 or 3 known performers, such as CCI Standard Velocity, SK Standard Plus, or Ely Contact, then add 1 bulk box as a control. I track average group size, extreme spread, and point of impact. If a load prints tight but sits an inch low, I'll live with it. If a load throws 1 round wild in every 5, it's off the list. Rimfire is batch sensitive, so when I find a winner, I note the lot number and buy more from the same run. Running suppressed? Subsonic sounds sweet, but some semi-autos short stroke if the ammo is too soft. I test with a clean action, then add a few drops of oil on the bolt rails and try again. If it still hiccups, I move up to standard velocity. Last tip, wipe waxy lube off the top round before long strings. That little trick keeps the chamber from getting gummy and helps groups hold together. Running a can without turning your 10/22 finicky, I set up a 10/22 for quiet work in a very specific order. First, I start with a factory threaded barrel that's 1 divided by 2 by 2 8. Make sure the shoulder is clean and square, and thread the suppressor straight on. No crush washers, no gimmicks. I use a simple alignment rod to confirm bore concentricity before a single round goes downrange. That 30-second check saves baffles and drama. Can adds back pressure and fouling, so I hard reset the maintenance baseline. I scrub the chamber and bolt face, wipe the extractor claw, and pop the trigger group out to blow out carbon. Rimfire cans get filthy fast, and a dirty chamber is the #1 reason cycling gets weird. I run a light oil film on the bolt rails and very little lube elsewhere. More oil just turns into paste with 22 soot. For reliable parts, I keep it boring and proven. A fresh Ruger extractor or a hardened aftermarket claw fixes lazy rim grabs when the gun gets dirty. A polyurethane bolt buffer replaces the steel stop pin to cut that metal-on-metal clack and reduce receiver peening. If the rifle is short-stroked with super quiet subsonics, I switch to standard velocity 40 grain loads first. Only if it still struggles do I try a reduced power recoil spring kit, and I test each spring weight with full mags, cold and hot. Point of impact will shift with the can mounted, so I zero with the suppressor on and note the offset. I track groups with 5-shot strings, clean at 200-300 rounds, and watch for first-round pop changes that hint at carbon buildup. One last thing a lot of folks skip. Wipe the first round's waxy lube before a long string so you don't gum the throat. Do this routine, and a suppressed 10/22 stays quiet and boringly reliable. Ruger's no written warranty thing actually works in your favor. Ruger legally chose not to give a written warranty because of how the Magnuson-Moss Act defines and regulates full and limited warranties, and they explain that plainly in their manuals and customer service pages. That sounds scary until you see how it works in practice. Ruger maintains a long-standing customer service operation that handles repairs, replacements, and product safety notices through an established return authorization process and factory service center. From what I've tracked across manuals and owner reports, Ruger will issue an RMA, send prepaid shipping labels in many cases, and either repair or replace defective items rather than force owners into endless legal wrangling. Real-world user experiences back that up more often than not. Across forums and user threads, owners report getting barrels, bolts, or entire rifles fixed or replaced with minimal hassle when defects show up, even on older guns and transfers, provided they follow Ruger's service instructions and return the gun properly packaged with the RA number. That historical goodwill is why plenty of resale value sticks to Ruger rifles. Buyers know the factory will usually make things right. That does not mean every case is zero drama, but it does mean the company prioritizes post-sale service over a formal warranty card. If you need service, do this. Register the gun. Read the manual warranty blurb so you understand how Ruger phrases it. Call customer service for a return authorization number, photograph defects, and ship per their instructions. Be polite on the phone and keep tracking info. The vast majority of owners who do these basic steps walk away satisfied. In short, Ruger's refusal to issue a formal written warranty is a legal choice, not a customer service abdication, and for most owners that ends up being a net win.